Good morning and welcome to the Premier Football Podcast. There are no unbeaten teams left in the league. Villa and Everton suffer defeat. Jamie Vardy scores against Arsenal again. Manchester United and Chelsea play at a damp squib, and VAR rears its ugly head in the Premier League again. Today we do have a panel. As always, I'm joined by Joe Doherty. Joe, how are you today?
It's a lovely sunny day, Rafe, which makes up for Arsenal playing absolutely shocking football once again, being completely bereft of ideas going forward. So I'm glad the weather's good, and it's a bank holiday, so can't complain too much, can we?
And I suppose the question on everybody's lips is, are you back on the coffee this morning?
Absolutely back on the coffee this morning, Rafe. Yeah, if we're recording a Monday morning show, you can assume I'm back on the coffee. Unless
love to hear it. We have a pod debut for producer Shovy. Shovy, how are you getting on this morning?
Not too bad. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks for asking. You had to come on the show and have a moan about Manchester United after watching that dire affair on Saturday, did you?
Listen, guys, I'm just gonna tell you from the start. This weekend with the football, it hasn't been that good. Okay, I'm very emotional right now. I'm very emotionally hurt. So
I don't think it's ever that
maybe.
good with United, man.
Joe, come on now. At least we got a point.
Okay, lads. Well, look, Shelby, we will come to United. We will let you have your moan. We will get to talk about that Harry Maguire headlock, but there is only one place that we want to start today. The only team that were 100% in the league going into the weekend. So for the 3-0 defeat, Aston Villa, that is, of course, the hands to Leeds United. Joe, you obviously did a piece about Leeds at the start of the season, and they have continued to impress since then. I think you did tweet at halftime, though, that they needed to buy a new striker because the one that they had wasn't up to it in the Premier League. Am I right?
Not quite. Not quite. I said that. And let's not kid ourselves. In the first half, Bamford had 2 or 3 clear-cut chances that he missed. I won't take anything away from his second half performance, which was by far the best he's ever played in the Premier League. He was lethal. His goals just kept on getting better as well, and his all-round play was fantastic. But he missed 2 clear-cut chances in the first half. So my tweet was just saying that, even in the last game they played against Wolves, Leeds had good chances. They had more of the ball. And I was just saying that they need to start putting these chances away, or else they're going to come. Their season's not going to be what it should be. But in the second half, Bamford took his chances, and that should give him the confidence to go on and, have the kind of season that no one expected him to have. He now has 6 in 6, which is an excellent return.
Look, that obviously Villa went into the game, I think, having conceded 2 goals all season and conceding 3 goals in the game. It wasn't all Leeds, though. Jack Grealish had a couple of fantastic chances as well at the other end, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. There was one in particular where he had a mazy run from the left-hand side into the box and then took it all the way across the goal, and just he took too long to shoot, didn't he? And he allowed the defender to get a block in. But honestly, Leeds were by far the better team, and they were really good value for their 3-0 win. Like I said, Bamford missed 2 clear-cut chances in the first half, so it could have been more than 3-0. Villa didn't look awful, but Leeds were just better than them. They controlled the game. They went there and they dominated from minute 1. It was a really complete performance from them.
Yeah, and it's interesting because both of these teams now find themselves in the top 6 of the table. The top 6 currently reads Everton, Liverpool, Aston Villa, Leicester, Leeds, and Southampton. Now, I know obviously we're only 5 or 6 games in for most teams, but it does seem like a remarkably open season, doesn't it, Shelby?
To be honest, I mean, I've never seen a start like this in my lifetime. And I've been watching football like nearly 20 plus years. To be honest, this seems like this has makings of everything exciting. And I don't know, man. I just can't wait to see what unfolds. I mean, what Joe was talking about, that the way Villa had an unbeaten 4-game run, and they just got taken out by Leeds. And Leeds, they have just started to pick up their football as well. And it's like teams like Leeds, Aston Villa, and Sheffield United. They had a good game, but like they got a draw. Teams are going to pick up, man. It's only the start of the season, and I honestly can't wait to see what unfolds.
Just one comment. I think that with Leeds, the coaching is just so good, and if you look at the other, what we consider to be the big 6, in a lot of those teams, the coaching isn't that good, and the standard of coaching that Bielsa sets, although his players might not be what the likes of United and Chelsea and Arsenal have, the coaching is so good that he can. I mean, look at how they're playing in comparison to Arsenal yesterday.
Dude, he made Patrick Bamford score 6 goals in Prem. You know,
yeah, they don't even have. They didn't even have Calvin Phillips, who's their best midfielder, and
the Yorkshire Pirlo, is he?
Yeah, the Yorkshire Pirlo. But these guys they've come up from the Championship and they're just absolutely bossing it. The confidence that he had, like the passing is so good. They fashioned so many chances. Like honestly, as an Arsenal fan, they put Arsenal to shame. Like I mean, more than to shame. Leeds are playing phenomenal stuff. And
would you take Bielsa in Arsenal instead of Arteta?
No.
With the same set of players?
No, because I believe in Arteta. Bielsa for as good he is, Bielsa's record in terms of winning trophies is fairly poor, and he does often dip off, and players lose interest in what he's trying to do. He's a difficult manager to have because he's so demanding, and he's insane. But
for anybody,
when it works, it's fantastic.
For anybody that's listening to this show through audio format rather than watching it, when Joe said that he had confidence in Arteta there, his head dipped to the floor and he mumbled, "Yeah, I've got faith and confidence in him." Let's talk about Arsenal for a minute, Joe, because Jamie Vardy is having a Thomas party. Again,
you had to do it, didn't you? You had to do it. Do you know what? This is the first time Leicester have ever won at Arsenal in the Premier League. They hadn't won away to Arsenal since 1973, I think it was. And Vardy does.
That's great, but they did win.
Yeah, they did win, and there was something inevitable about it. Vardy, you just knew that if it stayed 0-0 and Vardy came on with 20 minutes to go, half an hour to go, which he did, that he would have a chance and he would take it. And that if Arsenal didn't score before that Leicester were going to take.
Let's talk about that, because Arsenal did score. They did have the ball in the back of the net at one stage, and it was ruled out for an offside, not because he touched the ball, but because he deemed to be interfering with the goalkeeper's line of sight or interfering with the play. Were you happy with that?
No, I have massive issues with this decision. So the corner comes in. The corner comes in, and Lacazette wins a near post flick on, and Xhaka is standing to the left of Kasper Schmeichel, way out of his view, and Kasper Schmeichel moves to the right, and the ball just goes in between him and Xhaka. And Xhaka doesn't move towards the ball; he tries to get out of the way, so moving even further left, so even further away from Schmeichel, and the ball just dissects him and goes into the back of the net. And to rule that out for offside when Xhaka wasn't in front of, he was ahead of Kasper Schmeichel, but he wasn't blocking his view. He wasn't even near his view. It was an absurd decision, and it went to VAR, and the linesman's decision was upheld. And I can't fathom how decisions like that are being made, because VAR. It's like in cricket, in rugby, and tennis. It means that you shouldn't, like, incorrect refereeing and linesman decisions should never be allowed to happen.
Okay, with this,
it's just a joke.
I don't think that this is a matter of poor refereeing or poor implementation of the laws. I think that this is another example of the ambiguity in football laws, and we're trying to put these laws that are really open to interpretation. We're trying to put certainty on them. We've seen it with the handball at the start of the year, with everything that touched the hand being given as handball, and I was saying, oh, maybe this is good for consistency and clarity. But there are a lot of decisions in football that just are subjective. What is interfering with a keeper's line of sight or vision? Does he have to make contact? How close does he have to be? Does the ball have to travel across?
Just a second, Rafe. I think it's important that you've brought this up. However, I encourage anyone who hasn't seen this to just go look at the still frame. And if it's interfering, he has to be impeding with the keeper's vision, or else with his ability.
But I don't think it says that in the law.
It was neither. I don't know the exact law, but surely it has to be impeding with with the keeper's vision, or B with the keeper's ability to get to the ball. And Xhaka was doing neither. It wasn't even close to it.
He was behind the keeper. He was behind the keeper. If you look at the line, he was like one of his legs were behind the goal line. So that's like, keeper is the offside lineman. So how do you not call it an offside? And the ball was going towards him. And then there's, I think, David Luiz as well. So there's two players who are on offside position It's a tricky one.
I suppose, Joe, the keeper might have to stand up because one of those he might be anticipating one of those players touching the ball. He might not be able to commit to his save for fear that someone else might get a touch before he moves.
The keeper had committed to going the other way. He wasn't going to the left. He had committed to going to his right.
Okay, look, we've got
lads. Okay.
I know. We don't have a lot of time.
But can I just say something? I mean, in terms of TV refereeing, football, this is what, like Premier League second year having VAR. But when you look at other sport, where like cricket and rugby, even like hockey and hurling, they've been around for a while. People have figured out the kinks, like the bugs. So they had time to like upgrade the system and figure out the things, like a lot of the laws or rules they need to put in place. So clear out these confusions.
Yeah, I agree. It's early days, but it's just disappointing for. I just think you expect these decisions not to happen.
Yeah, and look, I think in almost every game this week there is a decision that we could talk about. But how about let's talk about Lacazette not putting the ball in the back of the net from 4 yards out with his head, from that ball in from Tierney.
I mean, that's just all of us three talking here today, putting that in the back of the net. It's a simple matter of putting your face in the way of the ball and directing it towards the goal. For a striker of any level, that's bread and butter. For a striker who costs over £50 million and who has years of experience playing at an elite level, to be missing chances like that against a very good Leicester City side is completely unacceptable.
Yeah, and look, credit to Leicester because they were missing James Maddison for the start of the season. Jamie Vardy's missed a couple of games and they still find themselves fourth after 6 games ahead of a lot of the big teams that are stuttering. We will move on talking about big teams. The clash of the weekend, the two giants that came head to head in the built-up spectacle of Manchester United and Chelsea, of course, ended in a 0-0 and a damp squib. Shovy, did you enjoy the game? I mean, look, United were lucky.
Look, the last 25 minutes, I thought we might do something. Okay, as Solskjaer said, last 25 minutes we looked like the team that were going to be winning. But like this, I don't want to be. I don't want to be saying this. Like, come on, we are playing at home against Chelsea. Both teams are in kind of similar position. Why not take the chance? Why not go after them? And we're coming back of like a 2-game win run as well. And we just bet PSG. Confidence is very high. And not to play Donny, I mean, come on. It's like you can't have somebody come to Old Trafford and just try to win the game in the last 25 minutes. Like, no, like you put them under pressure constantly. That's how it works. Like you play United football, it's attack. But if you don't...
Shovy, it's not for Solskjaer. And in the big games over his career as manager, he's proven that when he's got results against the other top big teams in the league, it's by playing counter-attacking style of play. And unfortunately for him, Chelsea, given that they came to United and got bashed 4-0 on the opening day of last season, we're never going to let that happen again this time round. So Chelsea, above all else, we're going to try to keep a clean sheet. So United then, I mean, Solskjaer should know that. If a manager should know that. You should be able to understand how your opposition is going to play in any game, and he should have been prepared to be a little bit more on the front foot. I agree with you. He should be playing the Manchester United way in games like this, and not
like there's literally like what I don't understand is how can you have Chelsea, as you said, at the first game of last season we bet them 4-0, so we know we can beat them. We know, yeah, fair enough, Martial's out, but like we had Mason Greenwood on the bench. He started Mata. Fair enough, Mata is amazing on the ball. He's been a really good veteran of the club. But like Dan James, like, come on. I mean, you can put him on the last 10-15 minutes. You want somebody to run around, put the defenders under pressure who are basically tired. But other than that, he doesn't start that game, man. I'm sorry. Like, I mean, I like the guy. I like what he's trying to do. But nah, man, he's not like starting material.
Were you impressed with Cavani?
Okay, look, the one touch he got, the flick, yeah, fair enough. We know he can do all that sort of stuff, but I don't know, man. I don't think we should have signed him.
I agree. You shouldn't have signed. Sorry to put it. I was impressed with Cavani, and I'll tell you why. Because he was moving in the direction that a centre forward should be moving. Manchester United don't their other forwards, they don't get into the positions that Cavani was getting into. And Cavani there are a couple of runs that he made towards the 6-yard box that were really good, and no one gave him the ball. So I think that he's going, if United can put the ball in the right areas, he's going to be a big upgrade on Anthony Martial, because Martial just doesn't have that lethal instinct that Cavani has proved over his career that he has. So I think I didn't think he was the answer, but in the short term, maybe just for this season, he could be crucial in getting some more goals than Manchester United would usually be getting.
What those runs do, sorry, Shelby, what those runs do as well, they don't just put the striker through on goal, is they actually create a lot more space for players to play in behind. And a lot of the issues that United have had playing all of these midfielders is that they find themselves sitting on top of each other on the edge of the box, and they can't penetrate the defenders because there's no movement in behind, and there is a real lack of space, and they end up having these Rashford pot shots from 25-30 yards out, trying to win the game on something like that. So people will criticize, Fernandes and Pogba for their lack of creativity, but when there's nothing happening in front, it's very, very difficult to pick a pass if no one's making these runs and if the space isn't there to do it. Now we can't talk about this game without talking about Maguire's WWE headlock on Cesar Azpilicueta. It's fantastic for neutrals to see that Maguire is really getting back to his best, because he had a couple of good games there for a while. I think people were getting concerned, but he's back to his back to top form anyway, Shelby.
No, man. How can you, I'm so dude, Chelsea gets a penalty. That's a penalty all day. You can't be doing that. You're an 80 million pound defender. What are you doing, man?
Manchester United have been awarded 27 penalties since the start of last season, including one after the final whistle 4 weeks ago against Brighton. VAR didn't check that to see if there was if there should have been a penalty awarded to Chelsea. Joe, where consistency at refereeing level again?
Yeah, I mean, I go on about this far too often on this podcast. I think, Rafe, it's a big gripe of mine. United just get decisions. They always have done. If you go back over the Ferguson years, but I mean,
is there a hint of match fixing in the air? Do you think?
No. I think it's intimidation on the part of referees to be awarding decisions against Manchester United. I don't know if that's a legacy from the Ferguson era, but 27, and I know that United play a game which looks for penalties, but 27 over the course of a calendar year, and then the fact that they don't, I mean, that was a blatant penalty.
To put that in perspective, I think I heard that Arsenal have been awarded that many penalties in 12 years or something like that.
Sounds about right. Arsenal don't get penalties.
Man, nobody wants to give Unai Emery a penalty.
Arsenal don't even get to the opposition's box anymore. Sorry, Shelby?
Nobody wants to give Unai Emery a penalty,
Well, of course not. He's we don't need it. I have nothing to say about Unai. But no, United, they always get the rub of the green, and they always have done. So I wasn't surprised that wasn't given, and I wasn't surprised that it didn't go to VAR.
That is the kind of quality analysis that you're tuning into the Premier Football Podcast for. Manchester United, you heard it here first. If you are new to the videos, guys, remember to subscribe if you are enjoying them. That is the end of part one. We'll move on and have a look at some of the other action in the league this weekend. And I suppose the first game that I want to look at, and a game that, as a Liverpool fan, I come away from not really too sure how I feel about it. Obviously, Liverpool got the win against Sheffield United. They went behind to, I suppose, what you could call another controversial refereeing decision, VAR penalty. When I saw it first, I actually thought that is a penalty. They've got this right. The tackle was on the line, but having seen it back, I actually don't think it was a foul. It looks like Fabinho won the ball first, and then there was mixed reports again coming out of Stanley Park as to whether or not they did check to see if there had been a foul rather than where the foul had taken place, and they said that there wasn't enough clear evidence to overturn the on-field decision, which implies that they did think Fabinho may have actually won the ball. They didn't say no, it was a foul. They said there wasn't enough evidence to suggest that we could overturn the refereeing decision. And I feel like we're just talking about this stuff every single game now at this stage.
I have a theory. I think that in Stockley Park, I think they just sit and they get a 50p coin and they just flip it and call heads or tails. Do we check that or not? And that's the basis for these VAR decisions that we see week in, week out. Yeah, likewise, Rafe. It's on the line. So if you think that it's a penalty, it's a penalty. But I agree with you that I think Fabinho got a piece of the ball beforehand and it was fortuitous. However, that being said, there's an incident in this, was it in the first half or second half? I can't remember, but Jota brought down Berge again, and that was a more clear-cut penalty for me. I
think saying that
it evened itself out, I suppose.
I think saying he took him down is a bit generous. There was a leg left hanging, and there was a long period of time before there was any contact made, if any, and a very dramatic tumble. I would have been very upset to see that given. But look,
however, how many times do you see your forwards doing the exact same thing, and not just Liverpool, but across the football?
I mean, it could be argued.
But it's a lot of managers. A lot of managers tell their players to go down when they get contact, because if you don't go down, then you don't get a free kick or a penalty. So it's just the way of the world.
Yeah, but that's very La Liga tactics. You know what I mean? It's like if someone gets even slight touched, they just fall down. You know what Neymar's been doing, but I think that kind of ruined football though, where people are just like constantly looking for penalties, and it's like even the softer touches, you just.
I knew that United were talking about a European Super League, but I didn't realize they've been playing in the league for the last couple of years.
Stop. But like, hey, speaking of United, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, during that Chelsea game, he got a tackle from behind and he got the ball. And it could be argued that that was a penalty as well, because he did take him down and he come from behind, but he clearly got the ball. And I think it's the same thing with Fabinho. I think he clearly got the ball, and you know, in that situation, if you don't slide it, you can see the goal. So you got to give the man some advantage.
Okay, there were some
I don't think that's a penalty.
Cheers, thanks, Shelby. There were some real goals in this game. Firmino and Jota scoring for Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool fans will be delighted to see Firmino scoring again at Anfield, second time this season.
You mean that. You are, yeah?
Well, I mean, in general, they would be, and he did. He played a new role. Liverpool experimented with four forwards. Then there's a lot of positives to take from that. But defensively, I mean, Joe Gomez was being heralded with it for a monstrous performance, but he didn't even win 50% of his aerial duels. Fabinho only won 50% of his aerial duels, and I feel like if they come up against teams that look to kick the ball long and challenge for second balls, Liverpool could be in real trouble, because they do not have an aerial presence at centre-back. There was a few years ago when Brendan Rodgers was in charge where Liverpool conceded from crosses and set pieces every single week, and I really do fear that we could be coming back to a situation like that, because I think Gomez won 6 out of 13 and Fabinho won 5 out of 10, but which just isn't good enough for centre-backs.
But you know, you'd expect Fabinho to win the aerial ones, especially the way he's so tall. And Gomez, he's been playing for he's starting. It's his third season now that he's in the starting lineup. He should have by now gained at least some experience to win most of those aerial duels. If he isn't, yeah, but like that's what happened. You know, that's what this season is bringing, Rafe. It's all interesting stuff happening.
Well, this is it. It's open across the board, and we'll look at City as well, dropping points to West Ham. Now, Joe, I think every single week we issue a formal apology to West Ham fans for how badly we wrote them off at the start of the season. We anticipated that after their first 8 games, they would have 0 points. And in actual fact, they've managed to pick up 8 points from their first 6 games.
Yeah, no, I mean, fair play to West Ham, and Jesus, Mikel Antonio,
what a goal!
Take a bow, son. That was an absolute blinder, wasn't it? That was a peach. You know, Paulo Di Canio, great West Ham forward, would have been proud of that strike. West Ham look very organised now. So David Moyes is doing something right. I like the look of the midfield now. Souček has settled in really well. We've said that before, obviously, but it needs to be said again. He's just added so much to that midfield alongside Declan Rice, and the defense looks pretty solid. I mean, even Arthur Masuaku, who I 6 months, a year ago, I would have written off as completely useless. He was working his socks off yesterday, putting in really important challenges from a wide left position. They're just working really, really hard, and they keep grinding out results against teams who on paper are much better than them. So fair play to them. And we obviously owe West Ham an apology, because they're overperforming what we thought they'd be doing. However, I think it has to be said that City continue to look like they're missing something. Guardiola's contract is up at the end of the season, and they haven't even started conversations about a contract extension. So that uncertainty can't be doing the team any good. I think they have too many players who, like Aguero is obviously very good, but is he leaving? He's leaving at the end of the season, isn't
They
he?
have too many injuries as well.
We'll talk about the injuries in just a second. I think Mahrez came out during the week and said that he wants to move to PSG as well. He said that Paris is his city and he would always listen to requests from PSG.
Yeah, I mean, that's like Paul Pogba coming out and saying he'd always want to play for Real Madrid. I think it's really bang out of order as a player that when you're contracted to one club, that you come out and say things like that. I think it's
disrespectful. Speaking of Pogba, guys, there's a rumor circling around the internet this morning that Pogba might be quitting France.
The French team.
Yeah.
On the back
because
of Emmanuel Macron's comments, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like things are heating up. Imagine if Pogba quits. Do you think other people will follow?
Yeah, he wouldn't be the only French Muslim in the team that would walk away.
Yeah.
So
can you tell me what Macron said that he said was Islamophobic?
He said that.
Sorry, Rafe. Go ahead. Sorry, my bad.
Sorry, he said that Islam was essentially fueling international terrorism, and that all of the blame was essentially rested on the shoulders of Islam.
Right. It's a little bit more complicated than that, and not something I think we should get into on this podcast.
And there's also some inside conversation that got leaked, so journalists are really hitting him hard.
Just to bring it back to City for a second. Obviously, we've spoken about their injuries. We've spoken about them missing Sergio Aguero, about how they can't depend on him being fit, about Gabriel Jesus maybe not being the best replacements. They do continue to create chances though, and I think they maybe had 3 or 4 chances at the end of the game to win it. Foden took his goal well, but they are really paying the price for not having a lethal finisher up the top end of the pitch.
Yeah, Sterling was put through by De Bruyne, and his first touch just gave the keeper every chance to come out and make a save. It was a really poor first touch, and then later, just a few minutes later, Mahrez got through on the left hand side in the box, and he had an option to square it to Sterling. He would have had a tap in, and he chose to shoot, and he hit the post. So it's just, you expect a lot better from those two, who cost a lot of money and are elite wide forwards, but at the same time they're not center forwards, and they're, although they do score goals, they are not what you call natural goal scorers. So it is an issue when Aguero is out and Jesus is out, and Jesus isn't adequate cover for Aguero even when he's fit. Definitely an issue.
But do you not think they should have enough players in the academy someone come in and step up? Like, look at what happened to Marcus Rashford. We needed player. We were hit with injuries, and he came in and he stepped up. Mason Greenwood stepped up last season, and City, the likes of Jadon Sancho, and there's a lot of players who's actually left the City academy. You would think that City would have players coming through, but where's all the academy players?
Yeah, they don't seem to. They've obviously pumped a lot of money into their academy in recent seasons, but they never seem to be given a chance, their academy products. I think Foden's definitely the only one that really springs to mind as to getting a fair crack of the whip. So clearly they're not up to the standard that Guardiola thinks is required.
Yeah, but like, dude, Foden is practically Guardiola's love child, and so Foden was always going to be the best.
Foden's very good. Foden is very good, has to be said.
Man, he looks like a Spanish midfielder, man, when he's on the ball, and that's not really a trait of like an English midfielder. English midfielders, like when you take like Dele Alli or Eric Dyer, and it's just, and Henderson, that seems like real gritty and tough. Foden is just
which is why Guardiola loves him.
While we are talking about the Manchester City Academy, I suppose we can't really today not mention the sad news about Jeremy Wilson, the former City Academy player who at 18 years old took his own life this week, having been released last year by Manchester City. Not to say that any blame rests with any club or one party, but this is something that we all spoke about ourselves this week, the treatment of underage players in sports and how enough isn't really done to protect them when they fall out of the nets. It's obviously a massive issue that I've just touched on here, but I suppose I just want to say that we all kind of sympathise and share our sympathies with the greater footballing community, because it is a real tragedy.
Yeah, it's terrible, and obviously thoughts and prayers are with the family. That's really, really sad.
Yeah, that's obviously, that can't be easy on any family. You expect your kid to go to this footballing school or academy, and you expect them, you think like, oh, they're at a big club, maybe they will become a professional player. But like at such a young age, when they take their own life, it is really sad. And obviously thoughts and prayers, as Joe said. But do you guys think there's something that can be put in place that might make these teenagers feel like, okay, look, if football doesn't work out for me, something else might work out because I have this to fall on to?
I think that education is massively important, ensuring that these kids study while they're playing football and aren't entirely reliant on a life in football as well. But I even spoke about the de-establishment of academies, keeping kids in mainstream lives while they are kids, and actually protecting their childhood is something that I think is incredibly important, because when you take a childhood away from an underage player, and then suddenly at the age of 17 and 18 take away their shot at the dream, I think you're creating incredibly lost souls.
Especially when that's like literally the only thing they've been focusing on throughout their whole childhood. That's like one goal. And then when you take away, so that becomes their base of their life. And when you take away the base, they
that's
just
why you
fall
can't.
into
That's why you can't let that to be the only thing in their life. Like you have to ensure that they have a safety net to fall back on. Like Rafe said, education is the obvious one, but in some cases that might not be an option for various reasons. So you absolutely have to make sure that these kids have a safety net to fall back on, because 99 times out of 100 or more than that, they're not going to make it. It's a cutthroat business.
But do you follow then what the cricket model has been followed by the county cricket teams in England, where they do have their underage players who are in the cusp of getting professional contracts, going to universities, playing for the university team because their university cricket is so good. So even if they don't make it pro, they have that chance, they get that degree, there's a scholarship. I mean, is that something do you think Premier League should think about?
We're probably not the best people to sit down and solve it, but I think that there does need to be a wider discussion. And I would love to talk about this all day, but we are rapidly running out of time. 3 games left that we want to talk about. Southampton ended Everton's unbeaten start with a 2-0 win. I think they were actually really good value for that. And look, I'm not going to lie, I'm absolutely delighted to see Everton get stuffed after everything that went on last week. I'm delighted to see Lucas Digne sent off, because he was applauding for Charleston during the week on social media, and I think he got exactly what was coming to him. It was an awful tackle, and I suppose that's really where I want to start with this game, Joe. Obviously similar to the Kamara incident in the Fulham game that we'll talk about in a minute, but considerably worse in my opinion.
Yeah, I've no sympathy for Digne, and I think Ancelotti's comments that they're criticizing the decision and saying they'll appeal it are a joke, and I'm surprised at that, because he's a man with who I have a lot of respect for, and who has a lot of class about him. It was just a reckless tackle. It goes. He misses. He tries to clip him once, doesn't, which would have been a yellow card. Like, he just tries to trip him, and then he just, I don't know, he has a rush of blood to the head, and he just dives in studs on the back of his. It's not even ankle. It's his calf, like his upper calf, and you can have absolutely no complaints about that. It's a straight red card. It's shocking.
Everton looked a bit lost going forwards without Richarlison. Iwobi isn't quite the same player that he is, and I think the rotation of Sigurdsson in for Gomez disrupted a bit of the midfield flow as well, even though Sigurdsson did look good early on, hitting the crossbar with a long shot. And I suppose those are the real question marks about Everton this season. How high can they finish? I don't think that they have the squad depth maybe to really challenge with the big boys. Shovy, what do you think?
Look, to be honest, I thought they were going to keep Walcott. If they kept Walcott, and this is going to be a long season, lads. I mean, there's so many different games, and you're gonna need the squad depth, and I think they should have kept Walcott. And look, I don't think Iwobi is the best guy to be like replacing
Theo Walcott. Couldn't get into that Southampton team that beat Everton 2-0.
No, he could. He couldn't play because he's on loan.
Oh, is he on loan? It wasn't a.
Yeah.
I thought it was a permanent switch.
Yeah.
No,
he played in the last game and he got an assist. He played well. Against Chelsea. Yeah.
Like, okay. Dude, it just makes such a perfect sense. If you have a Walcott in there, he's experienced. Yeah, he might not be as good as Richarlison now, but he would still give you that depth. Like, why would
I think
you
the thing was that Walcott wanted to leave. He wants to fight for his place. Bernard wants to fight for his place.
Yeah,
They couldn't
Bernard
have three. Bernard, I think, is pants. He's not a good footballer. But I think him and Iwobi wanted to fight for their place, and Walcott wanted to go to Southampton. He pushed for the move. So he would have been barely making the squad for the match days. So
Everton go to Newcastle next week, and I think we'll learn a lot about them then. They will be missing Digne, who's obviously a massive creative force for them. Richarlison will still be suspended as well, so I think it'll be really interesting to see how they do get on, being forced into another couple of changes. Really rapidly moving on, Fulham 1, Crystal Palace 2. Fulham, we said, looked a little bit better last week with a couple of new signings. They look good going forwards again this week, but Crystal Palace continue to grind out results.
Yeah, Zaha is the difference. I mean, a goal and an assist. He was in the right place at the right time for his goal, but his through ball for Jairo Riedewald in the first half was excellent. Not everyone can pick a pass like that. And just on Fulham, they're very poor defensively, but Mitrovic has been really disappointing for me this season. And Lookman looks really, really good. He had a couple of great chances that he made for himself, much like his goal last weekend. But unless they get Mitrovic firing as well as playing well as Lookman, then they're going to really, really struggle, and they are right now.
I think they also need to stop conceding goals, and that's always the biggest issue they've had, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think that they want. I think that's probably an impossibility, man, at this stage. So I think the thing is they need to start scoring goals, and Mitrovic has it in him to score goals at this level. He's done it before, so they just need to they need to get him scoring. That's their only way to get themselves out of this mess.
Quickly on Kamara, he was initially awarded a yellow card before it was overturned to red. And actually, as much as I think the Digne one was a red card, it was much worse. He had a kick out first. He went after him. There was a much longer, a prolonged contact. I think that Kamara can feel hard done by here. I think it was clearly accidental. I think that, yeah, you can't put studs on the back of someone. It does need to be punished, but I think the yellow card was sufficient.
I have to disagree. It was clumsy, and just because it's not deliberate, it doesn't mean you can't get a red card. It was dangerous play. It was clumsy. It was studs down the back of the leg, and just because it wasn't deliberate and he didn't dive in like Digne did, it doesn't mean that it wasn't worthy of a red card.
Thank you so much. 90 seconds left. One game. Raul Jimenez is far too good to be playing for Wolves. Raul Patricio should set up his wall better for that free kick, but take absolutely nothing away from the strike. I really enjoyed that free kick.
Yeah, Jacob Murphy, take a bow. And Raul Jimenez, what I would give for him to be Arsenal's number 9 instead of Alexandre Lacazette would be in a much better position. He's a top quality centre forward.
Do you swap him?
He's 29 now, and he's peaked late. He's a late bloomer, but he's 29 and his value is very high. So I think realistically, it's not worth it. But yeah, I definitely swap him for Lacazette if possible.
Man City come in, make a big bid in January, maybe.
They could do a lot worse.
They could, couldn't they? Right, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Shovy, I hope you had a good time on the show.
Yeah, man. It's been good, guys. You know, it was really nice to be on the front of the camera for a change.
Joe, as always, thanks for stopping by.
No problem, Rafe. Great to chat, lads.
Super quickly, Joe, in the last 30 seconds, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys. Don't forget, as always, to smash a like on the video, share the content around, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and subscribe to our socials as well. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and we will see you next week.